La música te hace sentir. Sentí la música en tu radio. La música en tu radio.
JLT Radio.com.
You are now tuned into the Mr. Credit 305 radio show.
Mr. Credit 305.
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 This guy's awesome.
Mr. Credit 305, he got the credit. Man, your scores is way too low, you need some credit.
Hola, soy Mr. Credit 305. Le quiero dar las gracias a todo el mundo que nos está escuchando ahorita en radio. No importa si nos están llamando o escuchando en Nueva York, California, Arkansas, Canadá, al fin del mundo, hasta en otros países, ¿ok? Entonces, nos están escuchando. Quiero dar las gracias por estar con nosotros. Y hoy vamos a hablar un poquito de Spanglish. We're going to talk a little bit English today, ¿ok? For the special guest that we have, which means a lot to me. Entonces, muchas de las cosas que nosotros vamos a hablar en español, en inglés, lo voy a tratar de interpretar también en español, para que lo escuchen y lo entiendan. Hoy vamos a hablar de lo que tiene que ver con el crédito y el poder del crédito. Por una de las razones que yo quise invitar a un buen amigo mío que se llama Coakley. Coakley es una persona que es un mentor mío que me ha ayudado hace años a empezar mi negocio. También me dio muchas consultas de lo que tiene con el crédito. Tiene años de experiencia en el crédito. Entonces hoy queremos hablar del crédito, la importancia del crédito en este país. Ver cómo podemos solucionar algunos dolores, cabezas, preocupaciones que tienen los clientes o los consumidores en este país. Y si estás afuera del país y estás planeando ser parte de entrar aquí en los Estados Unidos, le voy a dar un secreto: el crédito es bien importante, ¿ok? Entonces, vamos a darle educación. Coakley es el dueño de 360 Credit Repair aquí en Miami. Uno dice, coño, ¿sabes algo? Ese es parte de también tengo una reparación de crédito aquí en Miami, pero tengo una cosa que es amigo mío. Hay muchas personas que ocupan ayuda de crédito. Entonces hay una comunidad afroamericana, también la comunidad latina, que vamos a mostrar cómo nos podemos unir y apoyar a todas las comunidades aquí en Estados Unidos, y no solamente empezando con Miami. Él escribió un libro que se llama Attempt to Repair American Broken Credit System, un libro que es bien popular ahora. Ganó unos premios como uno de los libros más importantes en la área de crédito. Entonces, obviamente yo soy experto de crédito, pero Andrew es una persona que tiene años también de crédito. Entonces vamos a hablar con él y vamos a hablar de lo que es la importancia y cómo podemos ayudarle y quizás contestar algunas preguntas, algunas preocupaciones que usted tenga sobre el crédito. Entonces ahora, I'm going to introduce Andrew Coakley, a very good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, a legend in the credit repair business. And I want to say business, credit repair, in regards to giving people solutions, not make them feel lost, making them that there's a light in the end of the tunnel. Especially in 2020, people had to make some tough decisions. I know there was some times that people had, a lot of the consumers had to decide, do I eat or do I pay a bill? So don't feel lost. We're going to answer a lot of questions. Feel free to give us a call. Our phone number here at the radio station is 305-521-3434, 521-3434. And if you're out of the country, our WhatsApp number is 786-315-0689. And again, I'm going to repeat that one more time here in a little second. The studio number is 305-521-3434. And the WhatsApp number is 786-315-0689. But I want to say thank you to Andre for taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you got an amazing company. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. Actually, I just want to thank you also, Jose, for having me on the platform, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm Andre Coakley, credit repair specialist, expert, as some people may say. I just say I'm a specialist. And similar to you, we just help individuals get their credit back on track, help them find a clear path from a financial standpoint in order to help them achieve their financial goals.
Absolutely. So, and one thing we were talking on the way here is showing people what two communities can do together, right? I can't help everybody in the world with credit repair. I know you can't either, right? There's so many people that need our help. So, I had a thought a couple of days ago is how we can show the world what the African-American community and the Latino community can do together, especially two professionals that work together. You see me grow. You were there in the beginning stages of my company. In fact, I owe a lot to you. So officially, I want to say thank you. I couldn't be here in this seat without you. So with your mentorship and your leadership, I want to say thank you. And also, you've written a book, and I just mentioned to our clients in Spanish. It's called Attempt to Repair American Broken Credit System. What made you decide to write this book?
Probably similar to some of the things that you've noticed with your clientele. We, especially in the Latin community, unfortunately, with the African American community, we know that there's a lack of financial literacy. There's a lack of information that's out there. And a lot of times we think that information is only out there for other ethnicities and not for ourselves. That's how we kind of view it sometimes. However, I just want to make sure that I get that information out there, because most of our clients come in, they say, hey, you know what? Hey, you taught me that. I didn't know that. I wish my mom or dad would have taught me that. But we realized mom or dad couldn't teach you that because they didn't understand it themselves. So a lot of times, you know, we're trying to figure out ways where we can get this information in front of consumers and how they can digest it the easiest way possible. Some people like to read, some people like videos, some people like podcasts. So we just want to try to, you know, disseminate it however we can.
Absolutely. So 2020 was big, right? 2020 hit us without us even knowing it was coming. I remember on January 1st in 2020, we were celebrating a new year. We didn't know that coronavirus or that was around the corner. And it affected a lot of our community, specifically our community. Unemployment, tough decisions, didn't have a certain level of education that maybe some other communities might have. And they had to make some tough decisions. And then now they feel lost. And I'm sure you get these calls in your office in regards to, I have a late payment. I have a bankrupt, a repossession, even evictions, right? There's a solution, right? There's ways that we can help them out. What can you tell to the community that have had to make those tough decisions? That father, that mother that have had to decide to go, okay, do I eat or do I pay a bill? What's the advice you can give them?
Well, the first advice I can give you, that we've all have been in that scenario. I'm pretty sure there has been times where you had to make the decision whether you're going to pay a bill or you're going to kind of move forward with your business, or, you know, what you're going to do with your finances. And I want to tell you, just don't feel like you're on an island by your own. We speak to probably hundreds of people on a weekly basis who fall in that same category. But one of the things I would tell you to do is, you know, make sure that you are trying to budget your finances as effectively as possible. And that means, you know, trying to pay your bills, of course, but also making sure that you have some reserves. So when you are running into some tight spaces, that you're not just, you know, having to live off of your everyday bill money.
Claro, entonces lo que está diciendo para los que nos están oyendo en español, Andrew, es que algunas recomendaciones para las personas que tuvieron que hacer decisiones difíciles el año pasado es obviamente tener un ahorro, pagar los biles a tiempo. Sabemos que todos hemos sido afectados en esta crisis que estamos pasando aquí en la situación, bueno, globalmente, porque todos los países en el mundo han sido afectados en este coronavirus. Entonces, puede ser responsable, puede pagar los biles lo mejor que pueda y que no se sienten solos, no estás en una isla sola. Básicamente las situaciones que ustedes se encuentran, muchos de nosotros nos hemos encontrado. Yo me he encontrado, Oakley, Andrés ha encontrado en cuanto a lo que tiene que ver con esos tipos de decisiones. Entonces, por eso hoy nos vamos a dedicar no lo que tiene que ver solamente de crédito, pero lo que tiene que ver con finanzas, ¿okay? En cómo manejar esas finanzas que le va a afectar su futuro y también el futuro de su familia. Si usted está en una situación que ha tenido que tener pagos tardes, ha tenido ciertas cosas que le han afectado su crédito aquí en Estados Unidos, no se sienten solos, pueden comunicarse con nosotros y podemos ayudarlo. Por eso le pido que pueden llamarnos. Le voy a dar el número de WhatsApp, porque el WhatsApp se está poniendo bien famoso. 786-315-0689. El número de aquí del estudio es 305-521-3434. Este es el momento para ustedes, ¿okay? Este es el momento que yo quiero contestar tu pregunta. Tenemos ahorita el honor de tener a Andrew Coakley. Ha escrito un libro, ha ganado premios en ese libro, ha tenido una excelente compañía, ha sido un amigo mío y sabe también es un experto de lo que tiene con el crédito del consumidor. Entonces, por eso estamos para contestar las preguntas y poder hablar sobre lo que es el crédito. Now, someone had an eviction. Someone had a repossession. What can you tell them?
Well, first thing you want to tell them, you want to actually, is this from a credit repairing standpoint? Are you just asking?
Absolutely.
All right. So from a credit repairing standpoint, you want to make sure that if you do have an eviction or you do have one of these hard, what we're going to say, derogatory items on your credit report, you want to make sure, number one, should it be on your report? right? There's just a first few little check downs that you can check just to make sure that they have all the correct information and that they're actually properly reporting that information and being in compliant.
Okay. Entonces, una de las cosas que estamos hablando y que he hablado también en otros shows es lo que tiene que ver con cosas serias, lo que tiene que ver con evictions o reposiciones. Usted tiene el derecho aquí en los Estados Unidos de ver su reporte. En vez, el gobierno federal le da un acceso a lo que se llama annualcreditreport.com, que uno puede ver su crédito, ¿ok? Pero también puede estar seguro que no haya errores en su crédito. Hay unos derechos bajo unas leyes federales que lo protege y uno puede también hacer una disputa. Entonces, no solamente en el caso no es que eso pasó, porque sabemos que pasó, sabemos que había una reposición, sabemos que quizás lo diste el vehículo voluntariamente o no voluntariamente, pero tenemos que ver si lo están reportando correcto, porque si lo están reportando incorrecto, ¿ok? Entonces hay razones que se pueden salir de su crédito y restablecer también su crédito, para que tenga un mejor crédito. Someone that wants to start credit, that never had credit, what's your advice?
First advice, if you've never had credit, the first thing I'd probably do, if you have a friend or family member, the first thing I'd probably suggest, if you could, would be to add yourself as an authorized user to their credit card, to piggyback. That way, when you do apply for that first credit card, you already have some history attributed, and hopefully they'll give you higher lines of limits or better tier credit cards when you're trying to apply.
Una de las cosas que nosotros hemos hablado en cómo establecer o restablecer crédito. Si eres nuevo en este país y nunca tenido crédito, entonces tú quieres establecer su crédito. Hay diferentes maneras que uno puede hacerlo, pero específicamente un sistema que se llama Piggyback and Authorized User. Y Piggyback and Authorized User significa que si una persona ya tiene crédito o ya tiene crédito establecido, tienes una tarjeta de crédito, uno puede estar añadido en esa cuenta y lo va a ayudar, ¿ok? Porque entonces lo que sucede es que el historial de su crédito va a estar, el historial de crédito de esa persona va a estar en su crédito, entonces se va a beneficiar en obtener el buen crédito que otra persona ha tenido, ¿ok? Una de las cosas que también nosotros les recomendamos es estar seguro que no gaste más del 25% del uso de crédito, ¿ok? Es lo que se llama credit utilization. Let's talk a little about credit utilization.
Okay. And even to give a little bit deeper than that, the first part would be, of course, to do a piggyback.
Right.
If you can't do a piggyback, my next suggestion would also be a secure credit card. All right, using something where you're using your funds to collateralize the loan. Therefore, it's not as a big of a risk for the lender. Therefore, they're more likely to give you a credit card early in the game.
Perfect. Entonces, y lo hemos hablado, ¿ok? Entonces, lo que tiene que ver con obtener diferentes líneas de crédito, tarjeta de crédito, los bancos te pueden ayudar. Un secreto, si quieres empezar tu crédito, tienes que tener una relación con un banco. Aunque sea Banco América, Chase, Capital One, Wells Fargo, lo que sea. Tengas una cuenta abierta para que puedan establecer su crédito, tener esa relación con los bancos, porque los bancos son los que le va a dar el préstamo. ¿Okay? Sí, señor ingeniero.
¿A partir de qué edad es recomendable empezarle a hacer el crédito a un hijo?
¿Sabe? Es una buena pregunta. Primero tiene que ver con la educación, ¿ok? Educar a las personas joven. Hemos hablado, por ejemplo, la semana pasada estuvimos hablando de un ejemplo de 15 años de edad. Uno puede ya establecer su crédito a los 15 años de edad. Entonces, cuando llegan a esa edad, la edad de establecer que tiene con la universidad, de comprar su primer carro, ya tiene ese crédito establecido y también lo está ayudando entender cómo ser responsable sobre su crédito. Entonces, excelente pregunta. En vez también se lo va a dar a Andre en inglés para que lo contesten nuestros oyentes de inglés. So we just got a caller that just called and said, is it recommended to start credit at a young age?
Okay. If you don't mind, I got a story behind that.
Tell me.
All right. So when my son, I have two boys. I have a 24-year-old and an 18-year-old. When my 24-year-old was 16 years old, I added him as an authorized user or a piggyback to my credit cards. When he turned 20 years old, he went away from college, and we wound up figuring out it was the right time for him to apply for a credit card. Now, he applied for a Capital One credit card. Capital One gave him a $20,000 venture credit card for his very first credit card. Wow. Now, Dad was happy, right? But his dad was also frustrated because I only had a $15,000 limit Capital One credit card, and they gave my son a $20,000 limit credit card. But as you see, it gave him a jump start of life. With that $20,000, I told my son, If he ever gets arrested, if he ever goes to jail, don't call Dad, call Capital One at that particular point. All right? He had a lifeline for himself. All right? So that's pretty much how that works.
And I think what I was telling the caller that just called is at least also you educate your kid. You educate how to use a credit card. You know, we talk about 25% or less. I know when I'm coaching a client, I said, man, if you can bring it down to 10%.
I tell my clients 7% because
Absolutely.
there's always room for variance and room for error.
And it's just like when you're, and you're right, because when I talk to certain some of our clients, I tell them it's like the speed limit. You tell people to go 65 miles an hour, they're going to go 75. You tell them 25% creditization, then they're going to be 30, 35. So keep it low. And then also the creditization is going to affect the FICO scores. You know, there's a science behind everything. There's algorithms, and understanding that is going to give them the power. And also talking about going back to the young, our children is giving that education, because you and I had to learn this the hard way. Okay, we had to learn this the hard way. I learned it because I was my first client. You know, I had bad credit. I educated myself. I had nobody. I didn't have an Andre back then. I didn't have a Jose back then. I didn't have anybody. So I had to learn the hard way. And then I realized, even though my degree is in finance, they didn't teach us in school. They'll give you a student loan. They'll put you in debt, but then they won't give you a credit card when you need it, right? So
That's the I don't even want to say an American way. That's just the business model, because it's happening in other countries as well, not just the American way.
Right.
But just like you said, you know, student loan debt, you know, it's a big deal, you know, and you know, I speak to customers every day who have, you know, hundreds of $1,000s worth of student loan debt, but their income doesn't equate to hundreds of $1,000s worth of income. So in one aspect of it, you know, they try to say, you know, student loan debt or debt, period, can be considered a form of slavery, right? A form of keeping you working, keeping you from not being able to take a break, keeping you from not being able to be ill, keeping you from not being able to, you know, going through a pandemic crisis. Like, you have to keep moving for the simple fact that you have these debts that are continuously or perpetually being asked to be paid on a daily basis. So we want to try to do everything we can to try to stay away from debt as much as possible.
awesome. Hello?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you guys?
Good.
I have a question regarding the credit scores, and by the time that, let's say, you go buy a car, your credit score shows one thing totally different than what you see on any of the platforms that we use to, you know, monitor the credit. Why does that happen? Do they use a different system? How does it work?
Well, I'm going to answer it, then I'm also going to let Andre answer it too. There's different FICOs depending on the risk factor. So if you're buying a home, you're going to look at a different FICO number, like if you're purchasing a car. So it depends on the risk that the bank is taking in regards to making that decision. But I'm going to turn it over to Andre in regards to that question.
Yeah, it's actually what we call industry-specific scores. So FICO score would be different based off of you buying a car, you buying a house, or getting a credit card, because they're looking at you from a totally different perspective. I have some clients who have never missed a car payment, but they'll never pay their credit cards on time. Right. So with that particular customer, they will have a higher FICO credit score on a auto module,
right,
versus on a credit module. The credit module is going to have a very low score because they don't pay their credit cards on time. Right. So when we're looking at that, we also have to be concerned about that. But the way I explain that to my customers as well is we look differently to everybody. Like, let's say, for example, you got Jose. He's a good looking, you know, Latino brother. Right. However, there are just some women who don't think he's attractive, right? Right? But there's nothing we can do to make him look attractive to that person. And what happens is the personal's or the reviewer's perception is also graded in the credit score. I put Jennifer Lopez in a room full of, you know, 10 Latina guys. All these guys say she's a nice looking Latina. Right. I might put her in a room full of African American men. They might not see her as attractive for the simple fact of their perception. It doesn't mean she's not attractive. It just means that's not what they're looking for.
Right.
All right. So you can go to 10 different car dealerships and have possibly 10 different credit scores because they're all looking at you from a different perspective or a different. The ideal customer is different from every person, the same way the ideal relationship is different. All right. All my ex-girlfriends think I'm a jerk. But my current girlfriend thinks I'm the world's greatest thing, right? That's just how it works, right?
I hope she's listening right now.
I hope she's listening. I hope they're listening.
Hello.
Your girlfriend. Your girlfriend, no, just kidding. Listen, acá dice, ¿cómo elegir la compañía correcta para monitorear mi crédito?
So the question is how to choose the right monitoring company to get the update on credit, on your credit repair, on your credit.
All right, that's kind of hard to say. When I say that, well, whenever you're applying for credit, the only credit score that counts is the one that the person who's giving you the credit is running. All right. So let's say hypothetically we're looking at a FICO 8 model, but they're looking at a FICO 7 model when they're running the reports. At the end of the day, the FICO 7 what matters, because they're the ones who's actually giving the extension of credit. And a lot of times we try to say, well, my credit score is a 700 over here, but your lender has as a 600 over here. So there's nothing that 700 credit score is going to do to influence the lender on this particular side. So we also want to be very mindful of that.
Entonces, para contestar la pregunta es, el que nos estaba escuchando, nos hizo esa pregunta es, depende a dónde estás queriendo ese préstamo, ¿verdad? Lo más importante, el número del FICO, el número de crédito, es el que está mirando tu crédito. Entonces, básicamente, para explicarlo más fácil, si estás comprando una casa, hay ciertos números que van a ver. Si estás comprando un auto, hay ciertos mecánicos que están mirando. Entonces, es bien difícil decidir. Ahora, las tres compañías, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, tienen una plataforma que le puede proveer ese número, ¿verdad? O pueden ir a myfico.com si quieren. Hay diferentes plataformas. Pero siempre van a tener unos números diferentes, ¿ok? Porque todas las plataformas tienen una manera diferente de calcular. Van a estar un poquito cerca. Quizás estén 15, 20, 30 puntos, algunas veces un poquito más, pero dependiendo de la plataforma, que no hay una mejor que otra. Lo único es, hay muchos que conocemos que el Credit Karma es una plataforma que muchos usan, aunque el Credit Karma es lo que se llama el Vantage 3.0, que no es el FICO, pero es diferente, es algo un número diferente, diferentes algorithms. Entonces, lo primero es saber lo que hay en el crédito, es lo más importante. El puntaje es el segundo, porque tú puedes tener un excelente puntaje, pero si tu reporte hay algunos errores, también te puede impedir obtener ciertos préstamos. Entonces, una de las recomendaciones que le tengo cuando tenemos clientes como coaching es poder tratar su crédito, su reporte de crédito, como es su banco. Yo miro mi banco 2 o 3 veces por día. No digo que tenga que mirar su crédito 2 o 3 veces por día, pero no esperar hasta el último momento para saber lo que hay en su crédito. So we're talking about treating your credit like your bank account. You know, when I'm talking to and I'm coaching certain clients, I know I go into my platform and the banks and the accounts that I have. Is I go and check, make sure nobody has, taken any money out or cloned one of my debit cards. And we need to treat our credit the same way. I'm not saying look at your credit report 2 or 3 times a day, but at least look at it once a week or every other week, because we don't want to be having any hidden surprises, because there's mistakes that these companies do. I am Jose Rodriguez. My dad is Jose Rodriguez. And one thing that I noticed years ago is that his credit got into my credit. So when I first bought my house, they told me, man, I can't sell you a house because you already own one. And it was my dad's house. So those errors happen. And now we're into last time, especially the home buyers. Right now, interest rates are low. It's a buyer's market. It's a seller's market. And some people want to take advantage of those low interest rates, and then they wait to find a home, and then suddenly they see those errors on their credit. They see that there's accounts are not theirs, or maybe how they're reporting it. I even see, I'm sure you've seen it, names are even spelled wrong. I had a client that even the birthday was wrong. So those are things they have to pick up. But the only way you're going to look at is using whatever platform benefit helps them out. But at least it gives them the information they need that those errors are not occurring. And if they do, they can go ahead and act accordingly.
Exactly. And monitoring your credit is something you almost have to do, it's almost a lifelong journey. There's no such thing as not monitoring your credit anymore. So let's say hypothetically you have you're aiming for a 750 credit score. All right, and you're using credit monitoring. Now all of a sudden you got a 750 credit score. You got it. Can you stop working on your credit at that point? Can you just give up? No. So it's just like we're going to the gym. Let's say I want to lose 30 pounds. I bust my butt. I go to the gym. I lose 30 pounds.
You've been talking to my wife, haven't you?
Yeah, you know how it goes. I've been talking to myself. I'm looking in the mirror, brother.
Pues I'm trying to lose 30 pounds.
Right? Otra pregunta. A la hora de comprar un carro, me doy cuenta de que mi puntaje baja muchísimo porque no solamente lo mira un banco, sino que muchas veces lo miran 10 bancos diferentes. ¿Cómo se puede manejar esa situación?
Okay, so the question is, someone went to a dealership, they looked at the credit, they realized that 10 banks looked at the credit without their permission. Can you resolve that issue? I'll let you answer this one.
Well, any bank that runs your credit, they have to have permissible purpose. All right. If there's no permissible purpose, you can get those inquiries removed off your report. Now, keep in mind, in some cases, you might have given them authorization to run those inquiries. You might have given them permissible purpose. Let's say you're going into a local car dealer, but that local car dealer deals with 10 different banks. They're probably going to actually what we call shotgun your loan out to those 10 different banks. Now, keep in mind, most consumers think the bank is actually sending out the deal to actually find the best deal for the consumer, but the bank is actually finding the best deal for them.
Right.
Because the lender or the bank actually pays the car dealership what we call an incentive for selling you a higher interest rate. So when banks are really shopping for your credit, ideally they're shopping for the best loan for them. My best suggestion is whenever you're trying to buy a car, you want to try to get pre-approved prior to walking into that car lot. That way you know what the financing is, you know what your interest rate is. Therefore, when you see the price of the vehicle, you can automatically calculate the payment because you already know what your interest rate is on that particular vehicle.
Right. Entonces, básicamente lo que están mencionando es que tener cuidado cuando vayas a un dealer. Tener cuidado porque uno le puede dar, cuando está firmando la aplicación para un préstamo, le está dando autorización para que ese dealer o ese gerente de finanzas mande su aplicación en diferentes bancos. Ahora, ese puntuaje puede ser de 6 a 15 puntos. Uno puede perder bastante puntuaje. Entonces, esa persona que lo miraron 10 veces, bien posible perdió más de 100 puntos. Y el puntaje es muy, pero muy importante. Ahora, si no ha sido para adelantarme un poquito más, si no fue que miraron su crédito sin su permiso o sin tu autorización, o no entendías que estabas autorizando a ese dealership, a manera que se puede resolver. O si no, toma 2 años para que salga ese inquiry. Pero por eso, como dijo Andre, saber lo que está en tu crédito, ver cómo está tu puntuaje, entonces ser preaprobado por un préstamo antes que hagas esa decisión, porque si vas a hacer un negociamiento de un auto, estar seguro que le encanta el auto, es la mensualidad que estás queriendo, entonces darle permiso en mirar su crédito.
Ok, otra pregunta acá dice, yo me compré una motocicleta, la pagué bien por los primeros 2 años, tuve 4 veces un atraso por el tema del COVID y después terminé de pagar la motocicleta en su totalidad. Pero en el reporte de crédito me quedaron los 4 meses tardes. ¿Eso se puede borrar?
Claro que sí. Cualquier cosa negativa se puede borrar en su crédito. También vamos a dejar que André hable de su opinión, pero todo lo que hay en su crédito negativo se puede borrar, ¿ok? Ahora, nada es garantizado en este mundo. Ningún abogado ni juez le puede garantizar nada en este mundo, pero siempre tienes el derecho de poder remover eso de su crédito. Sabemos que nosotros hemos hecho una decisión difícil, como mencionamos al principio del show. El 2020 fue un año terrible para muchos de nosotros y eso pasó. No se sienten solos. Primero, no te sientes solo porque le ha pasado a millones de personas aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero sí se puede borrar. Hay un proceso, ¿ok? Otra vez, nada de garantizado, pues sí se puede borrar. Le voy a explicar ahorita a Andre la pregunta. So they just asked, somebody just called, said last year they had to make tough decision. They had a motorcycle. They were paying great. Due to coronavirus, they had 4 late payments on their credit, and then they paid off the motorcycle. So he wants to know, can he get those late payments removed?
The late payments can be removed. Yeah, you got to call a company like Jose, and I'm pretty sure he could possibly take care of you. But yes, the late payments can possibly be removed. Anything can be possibly removed on your credit report. What I like to say is when creditors put information on your credit report, there's rules and regulations they have to pass per the Fair Credit Reporting Act. If they aren't dotting their I's and crossing their T's, making sure that information is timely, making sure it's accurate, making sure it's verifiable, that gives you grounds to get that information removed off the report. So some of the things you might want to actually look at is seeing, hey, do all 3 credit bureaus have the same lates at the same months, or there are variations of it? And that can be certain things you can possibly use for leverage to possibly get those late payments removed. But keep in mind, even when you pay off the account, the late payments are still affecting the credit report, even though the account is paid off. The blemish is still there. So, for example, if I cheat on my girlfriend 3 times and I break up with her, I'm still a cheater, right? I just might not be in a relationship, but that doesn't equate that I didn't actually cheat on her 3 times, right? So, we get it from that particular standard. And, so ideally, yes, paying it off is the great thing, but it doesn't, exonerish those late marks.
And what I mentioned in Spanish is nothing's guaranteed. You have the right to dispute anything you want. It's like like an attorney. They can't guarantee you're going to win, but they can guarantee they're going to fight for you. They're going to advocate for you. They're going to give their best shot at it. Exactly. But not even the judge can say, yeah, you're going to win the case. So yeah, you have the right under the law that you can dispute whatever items. It could be removed. Nothing is guaranteed, but you do have an opportunity to get that removed. So, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about Andre.
Wait, aguanta, antes que te vayas al break.
Wait,
hold on. Estuve trabajando con una compañía de crédito donde me resolvieron algunas cosas y algunas no. De hecho, acabo de recibir una citación de la corte de una compañía Midland Funding.
Yep.
¿Qué se supone que tengo que hacer? Voy a la corte, le digo que no tengo plata. ¿Cómo manejo eso?
Bueno, me puede llamar a Urgent Credit Solutions o puede llamar a mi amigo Andre de Credit360 aquí en Miami. Nosotros podemos ayudar. Pero, para dar la pregunta, en serio, es una copia de colección. Ya está la demanda. Estás en la corte. La primera responsabilidad, preséntate a la corte. Llegas a la corte, ¿ok? Ahora, en este momento, están haciendo Zoom. Lo que tiene que ver con esos tipos de casos. Hacer un Zoom y presentarte. Muchas veces estas compañías no están preparados porque piensan que uno no se va a aparecer, porque a la mayoría de la gente dicen, debo dinero, entonces ¿para qué aparecerme y pasar eso de cabeza? Aparécete, ¿ok? Ahora, algo para recordarte, el compromiso no fue con esa compañía Midland Funding. El compromiso fue con la compañía original que vendió eso Midland Funding. Hay ciertos derechos federales como consumidor tenemos y podemos resolver ese problema. Pero ya como la demanda está puesta, la sugerencia es número 1, aparecerte. Y recordarle a esa compañía que la deuda no fue con uno. Y vas a ver los resultados que uno va a tener. Para más preguntas me pueden llamar. Me pueden llamar aquí en el estudio 305-521-3434 o el WhatsApp al número 786-315-0689. También luego le voy a pasar mi número de la oficina para una consulta gratis. Pero buena pregunta. Ahorita vamos a regresar. Here in a second, we're going to come back. We're going to take a short break. And we want to know a little bit more about Andre, about his life, how he became the credit expert, what made him decide to make a difference in the community, and what he's doing for his community, which I want to be a part of. I think we should team up. I think we can do amazing things together. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mr. Credit 305 radio. To the Mr. Credit 305 radio show.
Mr. Credit 305.
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 This guy's awesome.
Mr. Credit 305, he got the credit. Man, your scores
Yep. We're back. This is a very amazing day, special day. If you will know my story, and I think you guys know my story in somewhat in the first show that we did here and how we started with a dream, started with a momentum in regards to making a difference in our community. That was my goal, to make a difference in our community where we're at. And I couldn't done it with a lot of help and support, not only from my wife. So I got to say hello to Mrs. Credit 305, family members, and also experts in our community that has to do with credit repair in the credit industry. Which one of them, and the main person, has been Andre Coakley. Has helped me a lot since day one. In fact, he was in my office not too long ago. He was talking to my team. I only have 15 clients. He said 30, but I actually lied to him. I actually have 15 because the other 15 I was doing for free. I had only 15 clients, but I had a vision of making a difference. It wasn't about the money, because I think God is always watching, right? As long as you do things right, you'll be fine. As long as you make a difference in the community with good ethics and with good intention and doing it at 100%. But I want to really talk about who Andre is, what made him decide to come to the credit world, how you became a superstar, because he's a legend, guys. I need you to look this guy up. Andre Coakley, great book, American Broken Credit System. He's won number one selling. He's been an incredible impact in the credit community around the world, okay, around the United States. And I'm not just saying it because he's a friend of mine. I'm sincerely saying that he's a guest speaker. He's a leader. In fact, I met him as a guest speaker at the first event, and that was about 3 years ago. He's made a difference in my life, and I know he's impacted thousands of consumers around the world, not only here in Miami and not only his community, but in so many communities, including mine, the Latino community. So talk about Andre. How did you become? How did you decide to do what you do?
Credit repair. I got into credit repair. My first job when I graduated from college was working as a mortgage processor at my father's mortgage company. One of the blessings of that was I got to see people, what I say, financially undressed. Right, I get to see your W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, credit reports, credit scores. And during that time, I was looking at credit reports, but didn't even realize I was kind of, understanding trends of what individuals were qualifying based off of their credit profile and what individuals were being denied. Fast forward, after working with my dad's company, I wind up opening up my own credit repair company in 2006. I mean, not credit repair company, mortgage company. Life was great, making great money. All of a sudden, 2008, 2009, what took place? The mortgage crisis, or recession, as we like to call it. During that time, I had like 3 or 4 properties that went into foreclosure, not because I didn't want to pay my bills, because the tenants who were living in them wasn't paying me the rent. Therefore, I couldn't pay the mortgage payment. And I was a guy who always prided myself on credit. So I went from 700 credit scores down to 400s. And it was embarrassing. I was the guy who everybody went to for money. And here it is, I couldn't acquire money for myself. And I say that to say also, just in life, sometimes you might not be positioned where you want to be, but don't let that change your vision of where you want to go. Right? Because during that time, if I'd have let that get in front of me, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at right now. Because that wind up helping me open up a credit repair company. When I lost everything, I had to figure this out. And when I owned a mortgage company, there wasn't really a lot of money in credit repair. I was making thousands of dollars on closings. What do I care about a few $100 per client, on credit repair? So it wound up being a real, life-changing moment where it's like, I got to help people get back on track. I got to help myself. And then here we are, 9 years later, Credit360 Credit Repair.
That's awesome. And guys, I'm going to put on camera. This is the book right here. This is the book. Look him up. Get it. I've learned a lot from him. I never thought 3 years ago that I would be sitting at a radio station talking to you and you becoming a guest of mine and just really thanking you for what you've done in the credit world, also for me.
Can I cut you off?
What's that?
When we first met, you showed this energy that I thought was fake energy, to be honest with you. Not to say that, I thought you were fake. It was an energy that You said, hey, I'm going to call you on Monday. I remember you said, hey, I'm going to call you on Monday when I get back to my office because I want you to coach me. And this guy actually called me on Monday. And people don't ever do that, right? And that's from that point on, I knew that you're a man of your word, man of caliber, man of, of distinction. You most definitely were one to follow through. And I'm not saying that, I felt that you weren't going to follow through because of you. I felt you weren't going to follow through because of what other people have not done. Right, so it didn't have anything to do with you, by the way.
Thank you, man. That means the world. Andre, I want to thank you for spending the day with me during this hour. I'm going to bring you back. I want to get to know what we want. I want the world to know more about you. But, man, the hour just flew by. I want to say thank you for the difference you've made in our community. There's so many people could be thankful. I want to thank you on behalf of myself, my company, and my team for the difference you've made. And I want everyone to know, basically, we got two communities. Two powerful people that want to make a difference in our community. We're teaming up and making that change to show the world what two great guys with great hearts, with a great momentum, with great intent can do out of two different communities. So this is going to be amazing. This is the beginning of something that's huge. I think this is going to be a momentum. I want to say thank you again, Andre, for being here. Do not feel lost, people. Do not feel lost. If you have been a victim of bad decisions or victim of life, we've gone through it. Andre gone through it. He just told you his short story. I've told you my story. So we're here to help out. We're here to educate and make a difference in our community, okay? So cualquier pregunta que tengan, estamos aquí para servirle. Le quiero dar las gracias a Andre por estar con nosotros. Es un mentor mío, es una persona que me ha ayudado por muchos años. No solamente al darle la sugerencia, también en mi negocio. Para cualquier otra información, tengo un regalito al que nos está escuchando. El que me marque ahora al 407-516-3401, le voy a repetir ese número, 407-516-3401, mándenme un texto diciendo yo quiero un regalo. Le tengo un regalo que se lo voy a mandar en los siguientes minutos. Solamente decir, quiero ese regalo, el número personal mío celular y también el WhatsApp, igual, el WhatsApp es el 407-516-3401. Andre, thank you for being here. Any last words?
No, I just want to thank you, and I wish you and your team the best. And we need you guys to help us support this, collaboration over competition movement.
Love it.
It doesn't happen by ourselves. We need you guys to participate. So whatever you guys can do to help push this, we just ask you to be there for us and to help guide us as well.
Absolutely. God bless you. Thank you so much. Till next Wednesday, we'll be back. Same time, same channel, 3 o'clock to 4. We're going to have Andre back. Short time. I know an hour just flew by. Thank you, Andre, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right, man.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mr. Credit 305 radio show.
Mr. Credit 305.
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 This guy's awesome.
Mr. Credit 305, he got the credit. Man, your scores is way too low, you need some